Hello students, welcome back to your science class. So students, in the previous class we have started with the chapter and that is stars and solar system. In this chapter students, we have discussed, we have tried to understand that what is a celestial object, what is the definition of the celestial object, as well as we have understood about the moon and the phases of the moon. Basically there are the four phases of the moon students, in which we have understood about the waxing of the moon and waning of the moon. Waxing of the moon is what? When the light of the moon it starts increasing, and when the lights of the moon start decreasing, that is waning of the moon. In the phases of the moon student, we have seen new moon, crescent moon, then half moon, then gibbous moon, and then full moon. We have understood that how much portion is seen in all these phases of the moon and how much time it will take to complete the one phase. Now let us move on and try to understand more about that of the moon students. So see here, if we talk about the moon, let me show you the phases of the moon only students. Now you see here we have discussed about that of the moon students, and in which we have seen the different phases of the moon. Let me show you the phase here again. Before that, let us try to understand that why does it happen, why we are able to see only the half portion or less the half portion of the moon, or more than a half portion of the moon, why this phases actually occur. So basically see this the phases of the moon it occur because it is because the moon does not produce its own light, whereas the sun and the other stars do. Moon does not have its own light, while the sun as well as the stars, they have their own light. You have heard about that one is a luminous object and other is the non-luminous object, and a natural non-luminous object is what? That is moon. While sun and star are what? They are the luminous object because they can emit their own light, that's why they are luminous object. Now see here, if we will see the moon, why we are able to see even though the moon is not having its own light, so how we are able to see the moon? It is because the sunlight which is falling on it gets reflected towards us. See, we are able to see the light because actually we can see the moon because of the reflection of the light. So what happened? As you can see here, these rays which is coming, these lights which is coming from that of the sun, it falls to the surface of the moon and it get reflected back to that of the earth. Okay, so here it will fall on the surface of moon and get reflected back to the earth, and thus we are able to see that part of the moon from where the light has been reflected. So see, it is written here that we see the moon because the sunlight falling on it gets reflected towards us. So we are able to see the moon because the sunlight is there, and this sunlight is falling on us, falling on it, it get reflected towards us. Now we therefore see only the part of the moon from which the light of the sun is reflected towards us. See, we can only see that particular part of the moon, that particular part which will get reflected from the moon to the earth. Only that particular portion of the moon that we can see here. So the same thing happened during the phase of the moon students, that while in the phase, actually what happens, see, this is the actual structure how the different phases occur. See what happened when the sunlight falls on the surface of the moon, when it comes in between to that of the earth and sun, then what happened? This light, it falls on its surface, but what will happen? It will get reflected back, right? reflected back, or we can say this much only get reflected only. So obviously no light reaches to that of the earth, okay, from that of the moon, and because of that this time it will get reflected back, students, or it will get reflected in other direction, not on the earth, because it is present in between to that of the earth and the sun. So it will get reflected, the light ray fall on it, get reflected back, and due to which it does not appear, and that we called as amavasya, or that we called as a new moon. What happened here? When the light ray fall on the surface, only few amount of a only few amount of a light will fall on the surface of the moon, and when a light ray fall on the surface, then only few amount of a light will get reflected back from the moon to the surface of the earth, and that particular amount of light which get reflected back to the surface of the earth, it is visible to us, right? So since from the whole moon, only this much, only 1.5 portion of the moon is or less than a half portion of the moon is reflecting the light, so we can only see this much light, and we call that is a crescent phase or crescent moon, students. Then here similarly, when the light ray fall on the surface and half of the portion of the moon start reflecting back that of the light on the earth's surface, so what happened, we are able to see the half portion of the moon. So at the first phase we are able to see the less than a half portion, and in the second phase we can see the half portion of the moon here, right? Half portion of the moon is reflected back on the surface of earth. Now see here in the next one, when the light ray falls on the moon and the moon is reflecting, means fall on the surface, and it is reflecting more than a half of the moon to the more than a half of the light rays to that of the earth, then we can see more than a half portion of the moon, and we will call this phase is called as a gibbous phase. And when the moon is what, if it is if the earth is in between to that of the moon and the sun, so when the light ray fall on the moon, it will reflect all the light falling on it on the earth. So all the light will get reflected back to the earth, and due to which we are able to see a full moon here, okay. So this is what, this is a full moon, students. Similarly, then when the amount of a light falling on the moon in 1.5 portion only, we can see that much. Again this cycle goes on. So this is what, student, this is the waxing of moon, waxing, and this is what, this is the waning, waxing or waning of the moon here. Now question arises that why does it happen? Actually it is because of the revolution of moon around the earth make the moon appear as if changing shape in the sky. As you can see here, see here the moon is what, it is in between to that of the sun and the earth, okay, this one, and then it moves to here, and due to which we are able to see only a few portion, then it comes here, due to which we are able to see the half of the portion, because half of the portion of the light get reflected by the moon, and then the moon reaches here, due to which we are able to see the more than a half of the portion of the moon which appears to us, and it is because more than a half is reflected back to the earth, and when it reaches behind to that of the earth, or we can say when the earth is in between to that of the moon and the sun, then we can see the full moon. Again it will comes to the other position, and similarly it will again came back and reaches to the middle of that of the sun and the earth. So this is what, this is the movement. What moon is doing? Moon is actually revolving around the earth, right? And it is because of the revolution of the moon around the earth which makes the moon appear as if it is changing the shape in the sky. Okay, so why does this phases of the moon is we are able to see? Why there is a changing shape is there of a moon in the sky? It is because the change in the shape is because of the revolution of the moon, and it is because of that we can see the change in the shape on the surface of the moon that is visible from the earth, and it we call it as a phases of the moon here. Okay, so this is what student, this is about the phases of the moon, that how the different phases of the moon occur. So see student, this is how the waxing and the waning of the moon can occur. As you can see here in the picture itself, the first one is the waxing crescent, then it is the first quarter, then waxing gibbous is there, and then full moon is there, right? And then it starts decreasing, then waning gibbous is there, then third quarter, then waning crescent is there student, and this is how, and then after that a new moon is there. So this is how the phases of the moon generally occurs. So as you can see here, this is what, this is the different phases of the moon, and that is why we said that waxing of the moon or the waning of the moon students. Okay, see here it is also written that the earth along with that of the moon revolve around that of the sun, and it is because of the revolution only we are able to see the different phases. Okay, so we can say here that the size of the illuminated part of the moon visible from the earth, it increases day by day, and after the new moon day, it means after new moon day the size keeps on increasing of that of the illuminated part, and and even after full moon day the sunlit part of the moon visible from the earth decreases in size every day. So it will start it from that of the new moon, and then it will get decreases from that of the full moon stood. This is how the movement of the phases of the different moon occur. If we talk about the rotation of the moon on its axis students, you will find that moon complete its one rotation on its axis, and it complete one revolution around that of the earth. Yes, the meaning of the rotation, the meaning of the revolution is the same. That is, if we say that the moon is moving around the axis, then obviously one on its axis it shows rotation, and revolution if it is moving around that of the earth. Now let us try to understand about the surface of the moon students. Now talking about the surface of the moon students, see, moon surface is what it is. The moon is fascinating object, and a fascinating object for the poet as well as the storytellers. But when the astronaut they landed on the moon, they found out that the moon surface is what it is, dusty and barren. Yes, uh, the surface of the moon is what it was, dusty, it was barren, and it is not consisting of any kind of a atmosphere. Even not only this, that there were many craters of a different size which is formed by the collision of the meteorites on the surface. Even the moon has what, it has a large number of a steep and high mountain. So it is said that when the astronaut they landed that of the moon surface, they find out that the moon surface is what, it is dusty and barren, and there were a lot of craters are found, which is formed because, see here it is written also that the craters are formed. uh, Craters are nothing, student. I'll show you what is crater. These are the craters. This is the surface of the moon. Okay, and this you can see it is what, it's a large crater. How this large crater is formed? It is formed because of the collision between that of the meteorites to the surface of the moon, that will causes a large craters. The craters can be of a different size. See, this is a big crater, this is a smaller one, so the different size of the crater is formed here. So moon generally it does not have any atmosphere, and uh, not having atmosphere, as well as it does not have a water. See in this picture, this is an astronaut who is on the moon, and see the surface of the moon, it's very dusty, it is very barren. On July 21, 1969, Indian time, the uh, American astronaut Neil Armstrong, he landed on the moon for the first time, and he was followed by Edwin Aldrin. So this is that astronaut who reaches to that of the moon. Okay. Let me tell you one more feature of the moon. When you look at the diameter of the moon, students, so it is about 3000, it is about 3474 kilometer is the diameter of that of the moon, and which is about the quarter of the earth's diameter. So diameter is about 3474 kilometer, half which is that of the quarter. You can see 1/4 of the earth diameter is the diameter of the moon here, students. Okay, so moon is quite smaller than that of the earth. Not only this, the average distance also. The average distance of the moon from the earth is, it is 38 lakh 44 the 3,84,400 kilometer is the distance, average distance of the moon from that of the earth. So that is what, that is the distance, average distance of the moon from that of the earth. Moon, it revolve around the earth, and the revolution period of that of the moon, it will take about 27 days 8 hours, 27 days 8 hours to complete the revolution. 27 days 8 hours. So to complete one revolution, it will take 27 days 8 hours, and it also complete its rotation on its own axis, and the timing is almost the same, students. So these are what, students, these are some of the features of the moon, that what kind of a diameter, what is the distance, what kind of a revolution, and how much time it will take to complete the rotation also on its own axis. Now let us start with the star, another celestial object that is called as star. We have understood about moon. Moon, one more thing is there in the moon is what, it is our natural satellite. We are knowing that satellite are those objects which used to revolve around the earth, and there are natural as well as the artificial satellite is also there. But moon is what, that is one of the natural satellite. Every planet has its own satellite that we will going to discuss in the same chapter. So let us find out about that of the stars. See, what other object do you see in the night sky? There are large number of stars in the sky. Observe carefully on a dark night and from a place away from a big city. All the stars equally bright. Are they of the same color? Stars emit light of their own. So, are they of the same color? In fact, if we talk about the stars emit light of their own. The sun is what? It's nothing, it's a big star. And why does it appear so large compared to other stars? You know that if a football is there, and when you kept the football near to you, it will what, it appears bigger. But when you keep the same football to a distance of 100 meter, it will appear little bit 100 meter or farther from that, then what will happen, it will appears smaller. So obviously it's a like the same thing is the with the sun also. The stars are what, they are million of times far away from that of the sun, and it is because of that sun appears very large, but the stars it appears like a point. Okay.